Hey there, folks. Welcome to Broadband Deployment News. So there are some things that money can't buy. Happiness, for example, and maybe a good broadband connection. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So we've got a lot of money available for broadband, tens of billions of dollars, some that's being used right now through federal programs, and a lot that we're waiting for that's going to be coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law. But sometimes, as I say, money can't buy everything if that everything is not available. So one of the issues that we have that we're seeing is supply chain issues that we have with getting certain fiber components and fiber itself. And then there's also workforce constraints that we're seeing are an issue. So just some things to be aware of that will be something that we need to be taking into account as we move forward, and as we think about how long it's going to take to get every American affordable, high-speed internet, quality internet, as the NTI wants to do through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So I saw this story. It appeared on AP, so a lot of outlets were picking it up, and this is the same kind of question here. So lots of broadband money, but U.S. expansion finds speed bumps. You got a guy climbing a pole. So they're talking about right here, specifically Vermont. So Victory, Vermont. In the remote Vermont community of Victory, town clerk Tracy Martell says she's regularly frustrated watching a spinning circle on her computer while she tries to complete even the most basic municipal chores online. So here they're talking about, this is somebody in the city office that's having issues. The DSL service she has now works for basic internet, but it can be spotty and doesn't allow users to access all the benefits of the interconnected world. But about 5 miles or 8 kilometers away, as the bird flies in the neighboring community along Miles Pond in the town of Concord, a new fiber optic line is beginning to bring truly high-speed internet to the residents. So you can see here, this is the way it is in a lot of states. You've got just a matter of a few miles, and you've got somebody who's got very poor broadband, or in some cases no broadband at all, and then you don't go that far, and you've got somebody who's got a fiber connection. The fiber optic cable that's beginning to serve the remote part of Concord and will one day serve Victory is being provided through NEK Broadband, a utility of nearly 50 Vermont towns working to bring high-speed internet service to the most remote parts of the state. NEK Broadband Executive Director Carista Schutt said the group's business plan calls for offering service to all potential customers within 5 years, but given current supply chain constraints and the shortage of trained technicians, she's beginning to think that goal isn't achievable. I think our build will take 7 to 10 years, she said. Congress has appropriated tens of billions of dollars for a variety of programs. The first of those funds are reaching municipalities, businesses, and other groups involved in the effort, but some say supply chain issues, labor shortages, and geographic constraints will slow the rollout. So here she's saying that they were hoping to do it in 5 years, but it could be almost twice that, possibly up to 10 years, based on these issues here. The demand for fiber optic cable goes beyond wired broadband to homes and businesses. The cable will help provide the 5G technology now being rolled out by wireless communications providers. So that's a good point. So, we think about fiber being something that, is going to be just in those areas that you're going to be installing fiber to the home, but fiber is going to be used for middle mile infrastructure. It's going to be used for, as it mentions here, 5G deployments. That could be for mobile 5G, but also for fixed wireless connections using something like CBRS or C-band, or even millimeter wave, especially millimeter wave, where you're using mid-band spectrum or very high-band millimeter wave spectrum to provide fast fixed wireless internet. And you need that fiber. In a millimeter wave deployment, for example, you need lots of fiber to connect all of these micro cells that you're going to have. You've got a lot of cells with a millimeter wave deployment, or even with other wireless deployments. You need that fiber for front haul to connect all of these points up to a central node, so to speak, or then you need your backhaul to get that off to the internet backbone. So fiber is involved in all of this stuff. You need that high-speed transport. But there's a bottleneck in the supply. Michael Bell of Corning Optical Communications, based in Charlotte, North Carolina, said the issue lies with supply of the protective jackets that surrounds the hair-thin strands of glass that carry information on beams of light. So I was not aware of that. I thought it was just fiber in general, or maybe it was the glass itself, but he's saying it's the dielectric protective jacket that surrounds the fiber. Currently, some working to expand broadband say delays in getting the fiber optic cable they need can exceed a year, and I've heard that as well, that it's at least a year if you try to order fiber right now, if you are just putting in an order. Based on the capacity we're adding and the capacity we see our competitors adding, wait times will start going down dramatically as the year progresses and into next year. That's good news, Bell said. And I think as we get into next year, the lead time for most customers is going to be well under a year. So we'll see that. That's good. And of course, one thing that's going to be impacting that, and I'm sure they're taking this into account, but the money from the bipartisan infrastructure law, the BEAD money that's out there that's going to be issued to states, and then states issue it to service providers in their communities. That money is not going to hit until 2023, mid 2023, maybe in some cases late 2023. So, once those funds get into the hands of the operators, then they're going to be needing more fiber. So, there's going to be a lull here. We've got money that's being released now through RDOF, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, through ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, through USDA Reconnect. So there are these existing federal programs that are giving out lots of funds to operators, and they're taking that, and a lot of them are deploying fiber using that. So we've got that going on now, and that's going to continue. But then there's going to be this big influx of money coming from the Infrastructure Act. So there's going to be a lot of fiber needs then as well. So hopefully as these guys are planning and beefing up their inventory, they're going to be taking that into account, that they're going to see, kind of a continuing demand for this. And then once this money is available and everybody knows they've got it, there's going to be a lot of orders for fiber coming in at that point. And also here it says, meanwhile, there's a labor shortage for installing the cable. Many in the industry are setting up educational programs to train people to work with the fiber. And Jim Hayes, the Santa Monica, California-based Fiber Optic Association. And for example, the Fiber Broadband Association is some organization that's doing that. They are holding sessions in various places, I believe, to train fiber optics technicians. And then also the SCTE, Society for Cable Technician and Engineers, SCTE. Normally you think of that as far as cable modem service, but cable operators, again, you don't think about that, but cable operators are also people that are ordering a lot of fiber. Part of that is if they're going into greenfield situations where it's a brand new territory for them, they don't bother putting in HFC plant. They put in straight fiber to the home. But if they're upgrading their HFC plant, that stands for hybrid fiber coax, there's fiber in there. They're trying to get more of the F in there and less of the C. So they're trying to put more fiber in their HFC plant, and they're extending out as far as they can to the edge, as close as they can to the customer, to improve speeds and to improve reliability and to reduce the amount of maintenance that they have to do. So cable companies are also, they're also providing a part of the big demand for fiber. He says it needs to be done now as far as training folks. Hayes said, we're going to need to train probably 10 techs for every tech we've got who's competent to lead them. So another issue there is this, and this is true. So, there's a lot of opportunity there. So people who are looking for jobs, unfortunately, there's a lot of jobs out there, and a lot of people have decided, I don't really want to work right now. But for anybody who's looking probably for a good job that's got a future, that's probably going to pay really well, a fiber technician would be a good way to go. For comparison, it takes 80 seconds to they're talking about the speeds here. For comparison, it takes 80 seconds to download a 1 gigabyte video at the speed of 100 megabits per second. It takes 4 times as long, or 320 seconds or more than 5 minutes at 25 megabits per second. And that's at 25 meg. Now, the minimum definition of broadband from the FCC right now is 25 by 3. Most people want that to say 100, but the FCC has not changed that just yet. So you're talking about a 25 megabit per connection here, which is really, that's not bad. You want more, but at least you've got that. There are places that have nothing close to this. So you can see, again, with maybe that spinning wheel, when you're trying to download something, or you're trying to do other things that are a little bit more bandwidth intensive, it makes a big difference. The NTIA, a part of the Agency of Commerce, or the Commerce Department, which is funding broadband projects across the country through the infrastructure law, is neutral about how internet service providers reach the speed requirements. Many providers say the key to bringing true high-speed internet service to the entire country is to install fiber optic cable to every nook and cranny. And that would be people like the Fiber Broadband Association. They want fiber everywhere because that's who they are that's kind of who they lobby for, or fiber operators. The NTIA says no, we're kind of neutral on this, although they really would prefer fiber if at all possible, because fiber is the future. I think everybody agrees with that. That fiber is going to provide most everybody anyway. That's going to provide the best, fastest, most reliable internet that there is. Even cable operators, like I say, cable operators right now today, they would probably go all fiber if they could, but it's just too expensive. So they're going fiber in greenfield areas, and they're upgrading their plant as best they can in existing areas. Wireless, wireless providers, they understand the value of fiber as far as, again, backhaul and front haul, those kinds of things. So, I think, again, Fiber Broadband Association is pushing for all fiber, but then you've got wireless guys like this. So the argument against the wireless options currently being used in some areas is they can't offer speeds needed to qualify for the federal grants, and that's not true as far as what's available today. If you're doing fixed wireless with something like CBRS spectrum or C-band spectrum, that's mid-band spectrum. That's what a lot of people are rolling out 5G with. You could easily get over 100 megabits per second and higher. With millimeter wave, you can get close to a gig. Millimeter wave is not going to be appropriate for most areas, but certainly mid-band spectrum works in most places. Mike Wendy of the Wireless Internet Service Providers Association, or WISPA, said wireless technology is getting faster and more reliable, and wireless connections could be the only way to reach some of the most remote locations. And he's right. I mean, there's areas where it's going to be hard to get fiber to, certainly quickly. And again, we've got these supply chain delays, and you've got workforce issues with people who can work with fiber. So wireless is a way to quickly get high-speed internet to places that are hard to reach with fiber. Now, in some cases, you're going to need line of sight if you're doing millimeter wave, but like I said, mid-band spectrum, you don't need line of sight, and it's going to work in a lot of areas where typical mobile service would work. The challenge of all this money is to make sure that the unserved are served, said Wendy, whose organization represents about 1,000 fixed wireless internet providers. Our guys are in those markets right now, and they're growing. And of course, some of those wireless providers are using older technology and not able to get to up to 100 megabits per second. A lot of them are updating their technology. There are still scattered locations across the country that rely on dial-up. Wow, can you imagine? And some people in remote locations use satellite internet services. Some people have no internet options whatsoever. Well, I think pretty much anywhere you can get dial-up, but that's really not an option on the internet today, unless you're just sending text emails. I mean, you wouldn't want to send even a large attachment with that. I mean, I guess you can click send and just let it churn. You don't need to worry about that, but boy, that would be awful. Martell, the Victory Town clerk, here she is right there, said that when the people from NEC Broadband visited, they told residents it would be 5 to 7 years before fiber optic cable would reach the community. But Shute said her organization hopes to get a grant to connect the most rural areas, which could move the timeline for Victory up to 3 years. Well, there it sounds like a money problem. So that's not so much a supply chain problem or a workforce problem. Because again, you can't throw money at a problem if you don't have the material or the people to do it. So it sounds like maybe they're hoping that by getting these funds, they can increase the speed at which they deploy this fiber. Back in East Concord, after having the service for several weeks, Gilchrist said he and his daughter, Emily, who was 19 and headed to college in a few months, no longer have to go to the local diner to use the internet. He canceled his expensive satellite TV service. His daughter and her friends have been using it to play online video games, and in a few months, she will be using the connection while doing college studies. It's been working great, as far as I'm concerned. All I do is check email, Gilchrist said. I don't watch TV, but my daughter loves it. So he was probably somebody who would be okay without broadband, although he did say he had an expensive satellite TV service, but he was just using it for email. So anyway, this is certainly something that we need to keep an eye on as far as supply chain and workforce development. And we're going to see that it's going to take a while to get this money. So maybe because of that lull or that area, that length of time it's going to take to get some of these really big infrastructure dollars that are out there waiting, that we'll be able to beef up inventory and get the supply chain back to where it needs to be, so that when all that money is available, that can be deployed as quickly as possible. So thanks for joining me. If this was helpful or interesting, please give me a thumbs up on the video, and make sure you subscribe, click the little bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. And I will be back next time. I'm actually off tomorrow, No broadband deployment news tomorrow or Monday. So I'll be back Tuesday with Tech Tuesday. I will see you then. Bye-bye.